मैं देखता हूँ अगर फोन में कहीं हुआ तो, है ना।
चेतन जी, गुजरात करना है ना 1, 2 और 3?
यस यस, कर लेंगे।
हेलो मैम, लिंक
फर्स्ट लेक्चर डॉक्टर अरुण वाधवा का है, मुझे दिख नहीं रहे लेकिन अरुण वाधवा। डॉक्टर अरुण वाधवा सर, आर यू देयर?
No, he's not there. Let me call him.
हाँ, प्लीज कॉल।
I think वो दिख रहे हैं, आ गए।
ज्वाइन हो गए। गुड आफ्टरनून डॉक्टर वाधवा जी।
हेलो, गुड आफ्टरनून।
गुड आफ्टरनून।
Good afternoon, Vadha sir. Ignore my missed call.
हाँ हाँ, अच्छा, मैंने को लगा इसीलिए कर रहा होगा।
हाँ, इसलिए।
गुड आफ्टरनून।
गुड आफ्टरनून एवरीवन।
वाधवा जी, सत श्री अकाल जी।
सत श्री अकाल सर, कैसे हो?
बहुत बढ़िया सर।
किसी बहाने दिख जाते हो, देखो।
हाँ।
बाकी लोग अभी अच्छा। गुड, अभी और लोगों ने ज्वाइन करना है, 3 बज रहे हैं। अच्छा
हाँ, अभी 2 मिनट बाकी है। एक बार रिकॉर्डिंग शुरू हो जाए तो हमें स्टार्ट करना ही पड़ेगा।
They have started recording on YouTube.
हाँ, लेकिन
live
और एक आता है वहाँ पे रिकॉर्डिंग का। सेकंड तो डॉक्टर चेतन जी का ही है, तो कोई इशू नहीं। सो रितेश जी, आपके यहाँ पे स्लाइड्स रेडी है ना?
हाँ जी, slides are ready. Should I start with projecting them?
आफ्टर 1 मिनट।
Yes, sir. I'll do that.
वाधवा सर, एक बार चेक कर लो आप।
All the best. आप हमसे कह रहे थे कि स्टार्ट प्रोग्राम
क्या चेक करना है? स्लाइड्स
एक बार शेयरिंग चेक कर लो ना।
वाधवा जी को जरूरत नहीं, वाधवा जी अभी भी
नहीं, अरे
हो गए उसमें सर अभी।
पता है सागर, आपका ही एक बार प्रॉब्लम हुआ था ऐसे।
मैंने सबको पता है कैसे करना।
मतलब sometimes this
बड़ा करो, छोटा करो।
these gadgets are not that, our friendly weapons.
उसके ऊपर भी एक बार लेक्चर लिया था और अटक मेरा ही लैपटॉप गया था।
हो सकता है। Sometimes it happens like that. फिर फुल स्क्रीन नहीं होगा कभी।
I think it is 3 o'clock. Let us
The
start.
recording has started, so I request Dr. Ritesh Chhabra ji, Secretary IIP Ludhiana branch, to please start the proceedings.
Sir, is my screen visible and am I audible?
It is
Yes, you
visible.
are audible. You make it full screen, Ritesh.
Full screen.
I've already made it full screen, sir.
This is full screen.
It's
Slide here. Put it to
No issue.
slide.
Move it. Move the slide. Let us. Does it
Go
move?
to slide presentation. I don't think this is full screen here.
I'll again do it, sir. Now is it full screen?
यस।
Yeah, now it is fine.
Okay. So I welcome you all to this good initiative by Indian Academy of Pediatrics, a workshop on vaccinology. My sincere thanks to the office bearers of Central IAP, Dr. Upendra, Dr. Vineet Saxena, Dr. Basavraj, the President-elect, Dr. Ramesh, past President, and Dr. Sameer Dalwai, the Treasurer. Our Vice President North, Dr. Rajiv Seth. One thing common in all these 6 dignitaries is that they are all from EB18, which I was also a part of. So that makes me very well connected and influential man around. Thank you to all of them. These are the people behind today's this IAP Vaccinology module, Dr. Bakul Parekh, Dr. Basavraj, who are the national coordinators, and Dr. Yavle and Dr. Sagar Kulkarni, who are the national conveners for the program. Authors for this module, Dr. Sagar Kulkarni, Dr. Abesha, Dr. Yavle, Dr. Jaideep Chaudhary. We are lucky to have many of these people, many of the people who contributed to this program as speakers in this module for Ludhiana and Punjab. These are the office bearers. I already talked about them. Dr. Rajiv Seth, this IAP Action Plan Coordinator, Dr. Yavle, Action Plan Convener, Dr. Ganesh Kulkarni, and Action Plan Convener, Dr. Athanu Badra. IAP Action Plan Convener also, Dr. Pavan Kalyan. Thank you very much to all of them for giving us this particular action plan, which I feel should have been better if conducted physically, but anyway, we can do it later on. Faculty involved in editing and TOTs and digital recording are as follows. And we have Dr. Sagar Kulkarni, Dr. Abesha, Dr. Jaideep Chaudhary, Dr. Surendra Nath, Dr. Arun Vadva, Dr. Sanjay, Dr. Chetan Trivedi, and Dr. Tushar Shah as speakers also for this program. Thank you very much, sir. And now over to Dr. Sagar for more insight about this program. Dr. Sagar, please take over.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ritesh ji. Ritesh ji has very rightly said that it would have been better if this would have been a physical module. But let me tell you, there are many advantages of taking an online module also, because we get to reach the unreached actually, and those people who are living in far-flung areas, even in talukas, even in villages, they can sit at their own place and listen to this module. So that is the beauty of this module, because most of the modules, they take place in major tier 1 city, metro city. So online programs are really beneficial for all. And sir has already thanked all the central IP office bearers, including Kis Badekar sir, Vini Saxena sir, and Basavaraja sir. Thank you to them and their initiative which they have taken, that this module is actually taking place. Let me specifically thank Dr. Tarlaka Randhawaji, IIP Punjab President, Dr. Malhotra ji, IIP Punjab Secretary, Dr. Singhal ji, IIP Ludhiana President, and of course Dr. Ritesh Chabra, who has done a very beautiful job of coordination amongst us, because of which this module is going to take place.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Ritesh ji is IIP Ludhiana Secretary. Let me thank here Sanofi company also, which has given scientific grant to Central IIP. And let me tell you, none of the slides are company oriented. This scientific grant is purely and purely for a scientific module, and we really thank the initiative which they have taken. Thank you to all my faculties also who have given their precious time for this module. And I wish best of luck to IIP Ludhiana and IIP Punjab. Thank you, Ritesh ji. Thank you very much.
Thank
Please
you
take
very
ahead
much.
the proceedings.
We have Dr. Randhawa with us. Dr. Randhawa, please say a few words of encouragement for this program.
Dr. Ritesh ji, you can stop sharing screen now.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, Ritesh. I echo your sentiments that EB18TM is ruling since then, and it will continue to rule for coming few years also, because most of the office bearer are from that particular chunk, and we feel happy as well as lucky to be associated with them very, very positively and enthusiastically. I myself feel that I am Secretary IAP India also, I am President India also, that we have access to all of them, just all of them are phone call away, and they have always listened to us, agreed with us and supported us, all our genuine demands. And on this platform, I specifically welcome Dr. Sagarji, the man behind this module. Vaccinology is something which is bread and butter of all pediatricians. As more and more number of vaccines are added to UIP, our role of educating people is becoming more and more important. And I want both as part of state team and request to everybody to take vaccinology to the non-medical groups also. We have held interactive sessions with the schools, with the Rotary Club, with the Lions Club. Believe me, even the medical parents are not aware of adult vaccination and adolescent vaccination. And that is the area now we can stress more upon, and it can help us in our practice as well as financial help to us also. And I extend a warm welcome from Punjab, though online, and extend open invitation to all of you to be with us during the North Zone Pedicon. We are going to have in the month of December, lovely month to visit December. It is on 16th and 17th. And I send to you all good wishes and greetings and Shubh Navratra to all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Randhawa. Can I request Dr. Ashwini Singhal, the President, Ludhiana Academy of Pediatrics, to say a few words? Dr. Ashwini?
Yeah, sure. I was just switching on. Yeah, I must thank all the national office bearers, especially Mr. President, Dr. Upendra, because I had a personal meeting with him. Actually made a complaint that Ludhiana is not getting enough things. And yes, we are here for the vaccinology webinar. My thanks to the national coordinators of the webinar and the conveners for sparing their time. We believe it is very difficult for everyone to really pitch in so much of time to teach others, which is otherwise a very thankless job, unless we really feel for the children and feel for academics. I again echo my secretary's thoughts that we would love to have such a program offline as well. The advantages are fine for an online webinar. The biggest being those who want to listen will listen, whereas in a physical one, you may not have anyone who's listening and still sitting out there. Thanks to Ritesh also for putting in all those efforts. I am the president of Ludhiana Academy of Pediatrics because Ritesh is the secretary of Ludhiana Academy of Pediatrics. Thank you, Ritesh. My thanks to Dr. Randhawa and the office bearers of Punjab State Indian Academy of Pediatrics. I hope this should be a fruitful forum, and then perhaps we can have maybe 2 sessions on the carry home messages from this webinar as an offline. Maybe someone from Punjab State can really take up that challenge and present that at any of the conferences, because that is what would be required to reach out to wider number of pediatricians along with the webinar. Thanks once again, and I hope we start with the academic program very soon.
Thank you, Dr. Ashwini. It's always good to hear something good about yourself. Thank you. Now I'll request our moderators, Dr. Nidhi Malhotra and Dr. Ashwini Sharma, to please take over and conduct the program. Dr. Nidhi Malhotra, Dr. Ashwini Singhal.
First of all, good afternoon, everyone. Happy Navratra. This vaccinology module from Central IIT is designed by stalwart faculty. I attended it as a delegate when it was first held at Nagpur, Maharashtra branch. I was very lucky to attend that. And it's a very basic and very simple, and with all practical knowledge, with question answers are there. It's very easy and it will clear all the doubts. And it's very good to update the pediatricians. And it would become very easy for the pediatricians to answer the question answers very often asked by the parents of the kids. I really like this. I like that program. I am very happy that it's being conducted in Punjab also. And I hope that it should go to every nook and corner of the India outside also. I congratulate Ludhiana team for conducting this session. We'll start this. Dr. Ashwini, you take over.
Yeah, I think it is the right time. Without wasting any further time, we start with the first topic. I think Dr. Arun is the faculty for that. Over to you, Dr. Arun. Go ahead and start your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me, and it was lovely interacting with all of you. And it's a good pleasure to be the opening batsman in any innings. And I will actually have to set the ball rolling because, the whole topic of vaccinology will depend on how good you understand this first topic. And first topic is a very basic topic. All other topics are covered in these vaccination talks and all, but one must understand the basics, and after that, everything becomes quite simple. So we'll be talking about what is the immunology of vaccination. And before we start that, I think first thing, we must understand the difference between vaccination and immunization. This is a very common basic thing which people mix together, although they're not interchangeable. So what is vaccination? It is the act of introduction of the vaccine. So a person receives the injection or the vaccine, which is called vaccination. This vaccine will protect the child further on against the disease. It may not also protect. So you're immunized when you have developed the antibodies which will protect you. So vaccination is the act of introduction of the vaccine, and immunization is the process by which you have gained the protection against the disease because of the vaccination. And this we will measure immunization only once the whole process is over. Process means whatever the number of doses are required. Suppose there are 3 + 1 doses. So after 4 doses, we'll check whether the person is immunized or not. Then another basic thing, how do you classify vaccines? Very broadly, they'll be classified into inactivated and live vaccines. Inactivated are further divided into wholesale vaccines, which are the commonest, which came first. And then after that, the toxoid vaccines, the tetanus toxoid, diphtheria toxoid, polysaccharide vaccines. And now their conjugated versions are called the conjugate vaccines. Then you have recombinant vaccines, subunit vaccines like the AP vaccine. Then you have virus-like particle vaccines, which was the HPV vaccine. And then the latest came in during the COVID era, the DNA RNA vaccine, which we all know about. And live attenuated, although the classic live attenuated vaccines we have been using like measles, chickenpox, oral polio, but another kind of live attenuated happened, which was the adenovirus, the Covishield vaccine. So they are actually not live, they're not killed, they're non-replicating viruses. They're live but non-replicating. Then about immunity. What are the various types of immunity? We have the adaptive immunity and the innate immunity, what you're born with. Adaptive is what you acquire. You may acquire this naturally, or you may acquire this artificially. Naturally, we would acquire through the mother. That is called the passive immunity acquired through the mother is the maternal immunity. And you have active immunity acquired naturally, which is by infection. So natural would be through the mother, passive. Active would be through infection. Then you have artificial immunity, which could be passive in the form of immunoglobulins. And then active immunity acquired is the immunization, which we'll be talking about in the next 3 days. So we can say that active immunization produces artificial immunity, which is the adaptive variety of the immune response. Then what is a vaccine? Definition, the basic definition of the vaccine is that it's a complex biological preparation which imparts this adaptive immunity against a particular pathogen or any one of its subtypes. And this is a basic diagram of the vaccine. It has the antigen, it has adjuvants, it has stabilizers, it has some preservatives, and also some manufacturing residues are also present, which are there. Antigen we know is dependent on the pathogen. Then you have adjuvants, which enhance the immunogenicity of the vaccine. We have stabilizers so that the vaccine, when it's transported, it does not get degraded, which could be in the form of protein or in the form of sugars. Then you have preservatives like formaldehyde, thimerosal, which is used. So this is to see that there is no superadded bacterial infection or viral infection happening. And then you have manufacturing residues in the form of egg protein, formaldehyde, neomycin, which may sometimes be responsible for the allergic reactions in a vaccine. So the most important thing in a vaccine is the adjuvant and also the antigen and also the adjuvant. So antigen, of course, is the most important, which tells you against which the antibodies will be produced, and adjuvant modifies that immune response. So these two are the most important components we must remember. This innate immunity, what we are born with, it is very non-specific. It is antigen independent, and there is no introduction of the memory cells. So whenever the antigen comes, the innate immunity is the first line of defense. It is non-specific, so you just have a rush of antibodies, which could be against multiple antigens, not targeted against that specific antigen. Whereas the adaptive immunity is the second line of defense. It is very specific against that antigen. It is, and there is also induction of the memory cells. The adjuvant, as I was telling you, along with the antigen, that is very important. And the choice of antigen also adjuvant also makes a little difference. Like when we use alum, what was there in the DPT vaccine, it elicits a Th2 response, which is suitable against the extracellular pathogens. And whereas if you have the other adjuvants like ASO4, which was used in the HPV2 vaccine, CPG, and then MF59, the CPG MF59, if you remember, was used in this vaccine, Covax, Novavax, which is the Novartis vaccine against this COVID virus, and CPG is used on the Hepsilab B, the new adjuvanted hepatitis B vaccine, which is used in the US. So, these are the vaccines which induce a Th1 response, which Th1's response, one must remember, is for the intracellular organisms. So something to remember would be alum, which elicits a Th2 response, which is for extracellular, and you have these ASO4, CPG, MF59, which actually elicits the Th1 response, which is for the intracellular pathogens. Like we have tuberculosis, like an intracellular pathogen. So this is how the antigens would work. First, there is an early innate response when you inject. After that, there is antibody protection. And after that, there is a T cell response. And these two actually would be what we would say as the adaptive responses to a vaccine. These are now a little more complicated next level. So these are the cells of the immune response. And the most important professionalized antigen presenting cells are the dendritic cells, macrophages, and the B cell. Out of these, the dendritic cell is the most important, and it's a major antigen processing cell, which senses the danger from outside, and after that modifies it and presents it to the toll-like receptor, and which is what is the main receptor which would analyze, process, and produce the antibodies further on. So then after that, you have these cells, the naive T cells, then you can have regulatory T cells, memory T cells, the helper T cells, the killer T cells. These killer T cells then are further divided into Th1, Th2, Th17. So these are the cells of the immune response, which would normally take care of both humoral as well as the cell-mediated immunity. But the important takeaway from this slide is, because all these small things we'll forget, the important thing to understand, to remember here is that these B cells mostly take care of the extracellular organisms, and the T cell will actually take care of most of the intracellular infected cells. So whenever you have an intracellular organism, we need the vaccine to have a good T cell response, whereas in extracellular, B cell will take care. How do these vaccines work? They actually, as we saw in the previous slides, they produce humoral immunity as well as the cell-mediated immunity. The humoral immunity is the production of the specific antibodies. And then the point of these early production of the antibodies is that immediately, as soon as the pathogen invades, the antibodies reduce the pathogenic load. And like we saw in the previous slide, these humoral antibodies, the B cells, what they produce, clear the pathogenic load and also reduce the extracellular pathogens. Whereas the cell-mediated immunity is through the T cells. It has two main functions. It also helps in the supporting the antibody production that is done by the CD4 lymphocytes, and also it has direct killing of the intracellular organisms, which is done by the cytotoxic CD8. So remembering here in this slide that humoral immunity takes care of the extracellular, immediate response reduces the load, T cell immunity supports the antibody production through CD4 and kills the intracellular organisms through CD8. And this is how it acts. There is the first step of immunization. There is a local inflammatory response. Because the inflammatory response, lots of immune cells come there locally. Activation of the dendritic cells happen. After that, migration of these dendritics happen through the lymphatics into the lymph nodes, and in the lymph nodes, there is activation of the T and B cells. As we saw in a few slides before, there are two kinds of broadly classification of the vaccines, which could be live and killed. These are the characteristics of live vaccines, and all of them will have similar characteristics. They are generally considered better because there is generalized dissemination of the virus or bacteria. Dendritic cells are taken up all over the body. They are more immunogenic. The site of the vaccine does not matter whether you give it subcutaneously or intramuscularly, because actually it is going to the circulation, goes all over the body. the antibodies which are there from mother or through passive immunization or previous infection, they can interfere here because they're live. So the antibodies might kill these attenuated viruses. The number of doses are usually one. The second dose is usually given because there may not be the response in the first time. So, and boosters are usually not required. These vaccines, because they are live, although they are attenuated, but they cannot be given to immunocompromised people. And since they're live viruses or bacteria, mostly viruses actually, so they can be heat sensitive also. Then on the other hand, the location of the vaccine is important because localized lymph nodes are the ones which are involved. There is no multiplication of the virus. So the number of dendritic cells recruited are only local. They are less immunogenic. They usually produce only humoral response. The site is important. Circulating antibodies do not interfere here because these are killed parts of the bacteria viruses. Usually there'll be 2 to 3 doses as priming doses. There'll be booster doses. They are, however, safe in the immunocompromised because they're not live bacteria viruses. They are heat resistant, but sometimes or most of the time they can be cold sensitive. So inactivated viruses, we should remember, especially like, when we say DPT, if you keep it in the freezer, it can get denatured. So they can be freeze sensitive. These antibody responses, as we can broadly say that polysaccharides usually cause extrafollicular responses, whereas the conjugate vaccines produce extrafollicular and germinal center responses. And as we know, we'll go around and we'll see what is the difference between the follicular and the extrafollicular response. What happens in the follicular response, usually there is activation of B cells only, whereas in the extrafollicular response, there is depending on whether it's a polysaccharide or a conjugate vaccine, you can have the T cell response also if it's a protein vaccine. Protein means a conjugate vaccine. So this is the extrafollicular response to polysaccharide antigen. It happens mostly in the spleen and the lymph nodes, and also somewhere in the blood and little in the bone marrow. So what are the implications of this pure polysaccharide vaccine? Pure polysaccharide, they cause only B cell responses. They do not cause T cell responses. They do not trigger germinal cell activity. That is why T cell responses are not there. They are weaker. They have a shorter antibody response. There is no immune memory because T cells are not involved. There is no booster response. They're poorly immunogenic below 2 years of age. Classical example, as we see, is the polysaccharide vaccine. It does not cause any immunity in the children less than 2 years. Repeated doses, if you give, can also lead to hyperresponsiveness. This hyperresponsiveness happens because of the specific, there are specific number of B cells and the T cell pool depletion happens. So there are not many more B cells left, which can be now recruited. And the classical examples, as I said, was pneumococcal, meningococcal, Hib, and typhoid. And because of these shortcomings, all these 4 vaccines, pneumo, meningo, Hib, and typhoid, now are available and preferred over the pure polysaccharide vaccines. So what are the implications of these these conjugate vaccines? They are immunogenic in children less than 2 years of age also. They are T cell dependent. So that is why they have memory induction also. There is boosting response. There is antibody class switching from IgM, IgG3 to that I'll show you just now. There is robust immune response in terms of quantity, duration of quality also. Quality is the how the antigen antibody get stuck together, which is the avidity. There is no hyper-responsiveness here because B cell and T cell is also there. And the same vaccines, the MCV, PCV, TCV, and Hib was actually conjugated long ago. So these are the same polysaccharide vaccines which had those drawbacks. Now, because of the conjugation, all those drawbacks are reduced and we can give them in children less than 2 years of age. And also they have immune memory now. So this is the diagram, what happens in these vaccines. For when you have inactivated vaccines, it is said that between the priming and boosting doses, you should have at least some gap. Minimum would be 4 months, ideal would be 6 months because of the B cell maturation. So the affinity maturation, what happens is it takes that much time. And after that, after the maturation of the germinal centers happen, after that, if you give a booster, then the response is much better. And I think there's a graph, I'll show you how it happens. So this table is to summarize the differences between conjugate and unconjugated vaccines. The polysaccharide vaccines and the conjugated vaccines, as shown in this chart, the first one is the polysaccharide vaccine. They are totally B cell dependent, whereas conjugate is B and T cell. Antibody levels in the polysaccharide are only of the IgM class, and since they are IgM class, they decay faster, they do not last longer. In the conjugated variety, mostly IgG, the levels are low and high. Cell-mediated immunity, as we saw, is higher in the conjugated vaccines. The antibody response is also long-lived because of the higher level and also the T-cell involvement. Immune memory is better in the conjugated vaccine. Booster response is stronger. And nasopharyngeal carriage, so this is a very important point, that in polysaccharide vaccines, there is no effect on the nasopharyngeal carriage, mainly because of the low antibody levels, and which is there in the conjugate vaccine. So they induce a stronger herd immunity response. And the age, as we know, is more than 2 years, whereas conjugated vaccine can be given anytime up to 6 weeks of age. So this is how it happens. When you have a primary response, there's a small uptick. And after that, the uptick, it goes down gradually. And when you give a booster response, there is a higher up, and after that grows gradually. And this is actually, even after that, it does not reach the baseline level. Maybe after 5-10 years, it may reach again, where you might need a booster again. But the primary response is kind of short-lived, goes down faster. And after that, when you give a booster, that's a higher response lasting longer. So the higher the response, the better the response, it will last longer. So what does that imply? That minimal interval between 3 weeks should be there between 2 primary doses. And after that, the primary doses, the booster doses should be given within, after at least 4 months, ideally should be 6 months. So what are the implications of the immunization program in this memory? How does it interfere? One must remember, immunization schedule, whenever left, should not be started all over again, because this is because of the memory, as we saw just now. Whatever be the duration between the first and the second, third doses, we should not start it all over again. Boosters may not be needed when reactivation of the memory is, when there's a long incubation period, or the response is faster, like hepatitis B, hepatitis A. When you have a long incubation period, the antigen itself will trigger the memory and antibodies will produce. But when you have a short incubation period, like in diseases like meningococcal disease, especially pneumococcal, diphtheria, Hib. So when you have a short incubation period, you have to have ready-to-use antibodies. So the levels should be there always. And whereas, because the memory, once it activates, before that, the incubation period is shorter than the activation of the memory cells. So for example, if the incubation period is 4 days, 5 days, and the antibodies take 10 days to come up to a protective level, it will not protect you against the disease. Because incubation period in hepatitis B and A is long, around a month or so, by then the antigen itself will have produced a memory response. So short incubation period, you have to have ready-to-use antibodies, meningococcal, diphtheria, Hib, and long incubation period, you may not need a booster because itself it will. That's why hepatitis B, earlier we used to have 5-year booster, 10-year booster, 5-year booster. Now even the first booster is gone and 3 doses are good enough. The T-cell responses are, all vaccines will produce T-cell responses except the polysaccharide vaccines, as we saw in the previous slides. Non-live vaccines, the kill vaccines, usually produce only CD4 cells. Live vaccines produce CD4 and CD8 both. So, and there's one vaccine like BCG, which produces only T-cell response. And measles also is known to produce T-cell response if you give it earlier at around, say, 6 months of age. This is because in newborns, T-cell response is well maintained. And this may be because, and that is why, because you can give BCG in a younger child. And the response also, if you give measles at 6 months, the antibodies may not be produced, but T-cell will protect the child. Sometimes you have to give it in cases of, suppose, outbreaks or something. So what are the limitations of young age immunization? Maternal antibodies may be there. We have to take this into consideration. They may inhibit the antibody responses. The child's immaturity of the immune system is there, so may not produce as good antibodies as an older child. That's why younger the child, more the doses. You give 3 doses primary. The child is older than 2 doses, 1 dose. So immaturity is taken care of. But like as I told you on the last slide, young age does not affect the T-cell responses. That's why B-cell can be given, the BCG vaccine can be given. And because it is T cell dependent, and there is no maternal antibody which inhibits a response. And OPV is also given because there is no maternal IgA, maternal antibodies against polio or IgG variety, and there is no IgA against OPV in the breast milk. So OPV can also safely be given without any problem of antibody production, the response to the OPV vaccine. So this early life immune immaturity limits the persistence of the long-lived plasma cells. Hence, more number of priming doses are used. As I told you, like in pneumococcal vaccine, if it's below 6 months, 3 doses primary. After 6 to 12 months, 2 doses primary. After 1 year, only 1 dose primary is given. Then 2 very important terms we should understand are these herd immunity and herd effect. What is herd immunity? In simple words, it's the number of people in a herd which are protected, which could be because of the vaccine or because of the infection. So percentage of the population in a community which is protected by the disease is the herd immunity, which could be natural or acquired. Then herd effect is the incidence in the reduction of the disease among the non-vaccinated members when a good number of people are vaccinated. So X number of people, suppose 20 number of people are vaccinated and the protection is offered to 25 people, that is the herd effect of the vaccine. The herd immunity, herd effect is important because, like you can see in this colorful slide, the yellow ones are the ones which are vaccinated. Once their disease is there, these red ones are the ones which get infected. So, you know, if lots of number of people are infected, then lots of number of people are vaccinated, then people will not get infected. The red ones are the infected ones. But if small number of people are vaccinated, the yellow ones are the vaccinated ones, lots of people will get vaccinated. So you have to have a percentage which is calculated by the RO and other things, how many people should be vaccinated to give herd efficacy, herd effect. Then another 2 terms very commonly used. Some people use it interchangeably, but they're totally different. These are the vaccine efficacy and vaccine effectiveness. Vaccine efficacy is the percentage of reduction in disease in the vaccinated population. So when you have to compare a population which is vaccinated and non-vaccinated, how many in the vaccinated did not have the disease as compared to how many did not have the vaccine which were not vaccinated in a ratio wise, So it is a percentage in the reduction of the disease in the vaccinated group when you compare to the unvaccinated group. That is the efficacy. So, and this is also in ideal condition. This is important to remember that this is under ideal test conditions. And what is the effectiveness? It is the degree of disease reduction in the society because of the vaccine program. And effectiveness could be because efficacy, if the efficacy is good, the effectiveness would be better than number of people who took the vaccine. If the coverage was very less, the effectiveness may not be good. And also the herd effect, like we saw before, if more number of people are vaccinated, then the effect is better. This effectiveness is under the field conditions in natural surroundings. It could be higher if you have a good herd effect because of the herd effect, lots of people who are not vaccinated also get protection. And it can be low also by calculation because if the fault chain was, if the cold chain was faulty, or you have bad faulty techniques, poor coverage is there, not many people took the vaccine. So whatever the efficacy, suppose it's a very good effective vaccine, but lots of people did not take the vaccine, the coverage was less. So in that case also, effectiveness can become less. Then finally, talking about the vaccination schedule, there's somebody disturbing. So this is the IAP vaccination schedule, which the ACVIP gives almost like every 2 years. And here we have 3 colored codes. The recommended age is in yellow. The catch-up age, if you do not give at the earlier age, like if you see BCG is given till 4 to 6 years, 5 years it's mentioned here, and DPT, polio, all the green ones are the ones which are the catch-up age. The blue ones are in the special situation. So like PCV, rotavirus can be sometimes given in the lower age group. On the meningococcal, JE, cholera, rabies, these are all special situations vaccine which are given in blue. This is the IAP schedule which covers all the vaccines. Then how do you make the schedule? How do you come across the schedule? We have to take into consideration the immunological response, the epidemiological factors, the programmatic decision. Like in the government, you give PCV at 9 months instead of after 1 year of age because the child comes at 9 months for the MR vaccine. Similarly, fractional polio is also given at. So the pragmatic reasons also have to be taken care of especially when you're doing a mass program or in the government schedule. And also we have to think about which is the response, which is better, which is the prevalence, what is the prevalence of the disease in the community. So one might say 2, 4, 6 months is a better response, better scheduled response. But if the prevalence is more, you can give the vaccine at 6 and 14 weeks also. So all these things are taken into consideration when we actually plan a schedule. This is the government schedule, which is slightly different than what the IAP recommends. Here, as we know, IPV is not used. We use fractional IPV. Fractional IPV is given at 6 weeks, 14 weeks, and 9 months. Oral polio is given. And then they also give JE vaccine at 9 months, which is again repeated at 9 to 12 months. Interestingly, they do not give HIB also at 8 months as a booster. HIB is also not
Can you mute?
And 10 years, we give TD rather than TDAP. And instead of 18 years, it recommends 16 years for TD. So these are slight differences. Depending on the programmatic reasons, they give the vaccine slightly differently than what IPV would say. I think that's it from now. I'll hand over now to my second batsman, opening batsman, the Dr. Chetan Tripedi, and is actually a good cricketer, as you all know.
Dr. Sagar, can you mute yourself?
Hello. It was very, very interesting, very basic talk, and basic fundas have been cleared. I request Dr. Chetan, he's a very good friend of mine, a great academician, to start his lecture.
Thank you. May I request Dr. Sagar Kulkarni to mute himself? I think he's traveling somewhere. Or admin, please. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, admin ya host kar dega na.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Good afternoon. I hope I'm audible and my slides are visible in a
Absolutely.
slideshow.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Thank you so much, Central IIP, for this wonderful opportunity. And it is a really very happy feeling to be interacting with the Ludhiana and Punjab friends. So this is now I'll be going to. I'll be rushing to the my part of the talk. Very nicely, initial part covered by Dr. Wadhwa sir, and he has made the things very simple for me also because just a minute.
Sir, your screen is not visible.
Nah, there was okay. Let me do it again.
Share it again, sir.
Yeah, okay. Is it visible?
It's visible now, right?
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So now I'll be talking about the general principles. This talk will be very simple, very basic talk, but I think most of the queries of our friends, they come by this this particular group of the discussion. So that's why there's a separate section of this general principle in this particular vaccination module has been thought of by the our the module creators. So what is in that? Because first of all, we know that there are n number of multiple n number of antigens can be safely given on the same date of vaccination. That means because there are many questions that whether I can give that pentavalent and say BCG or pentavalent, sorry, pentavalent and MMR to be together, or MMR and varicella together, or many n number of vaccines. Many times the child or the adolescent is going to US for further study and there are so many vaccines are pending. So the question arises, how many number of vaccines I can give on the same day? So the answer is multiple or n number of antigens can safely be given on the same date of vaccination. Now, what is that same day? Because CDC and ACIP says the simultaneous administration means administering different vaccines at different anatomical sites on the same clinical day. Now, this is very important. Suppose you have given in the morning, and if you're given in the evening session, that is considered the same day, and that is it should be around approximately within same 6 hours. So that is a formula of same day. So you can give all the antigens together on the same day. Now the question is whether it is a live vaccine, what will happen See, if you are giving a 2 live vaccines, so gap of minimum 4 weeks is must between the live vaccines if not given in the same day, whether same or the different antigens. Now, what is the meaning of this? Suppose you have a live injectable vaccines. Suppose we have MMR vaccine. If you have given and if you want to give us next dose, or you want to give this MMR and chickenpox vaccine, both are live injectable vaccine. We have to keep a gap of 4 weeks for this second dose. This principle does not apply to live vaccines given at a mucosal surface. Means for OPV and rotavirus, suppose you have given a live vaccine MMR today, and if you want to give the OPV or rotavirus after 15 days, you can give it. You need not to keep the gap of 4 weeks. So that is the concept. Now, minimum of gap of 4 weeks is must for inactivated kill vaccine of the same antigen, except for rabies. We know that rabies we have a special different schedule, so that is not important. Otherwise, all inactivated kill vaccine, same antigen. So there is no minimum interval if inactivated vaccines of different antigen are given. Suppose you have given a penta today and somebody wants to give the pneumococcal vaccine after 15 days. You need not to keep the gap of say 4 weeks. Similarly, no minimum interval between the killed and live vaccine. That's what I said. Suppose if you want to give the pentavalent and if you want to give the measles vaccine containing vaccine, then no need to keep a gap of 4 weeks because it's an inactivated and a live vaccine. Now, there is very important consideration of this minimum acceptable age and the recommended age. See, sometimes we think that minimum acceptable age is recommended ages. No, there are vaccines. Suppose, for example, varicella vaccine. See, minimum acceptable age is 1 year, but the recommended age is 15 months. So, if by chance you have given it above 1 year, between 1 year and 15 months, it's okay, it's valid. But ideally, it should be recommended after 15 months. So that is minimum acceptable age and recommended age. These are two different things. Now, there is a confusion between less quantity of dose or non-recommended route used should be considered as a and it should be repeated or not. See, now suppose if you are supposed to give the dose which has been required, and if you give lesser than dose, then it should not be. It should be repeated. It is not considered valid, right? It is invalid. But by chance, if you have given more than dose, suppose polio drops, 2 drops are required, and if you have given 3 drops, it is not invalid. It is valid. It can be given. Suppose say JE vaccine, you are supposed to give 0.3 milligram. That is at 5 years. If you have given that, it is a less quantity dose, so it is invalid. But if the reverse is given, suppose 6 milligram it is given in the younger, it can be valid. So that is the concept about the less quantity and non-recommended use. So more than full dose vaccine given, no harm. Dose considered valid, as I said, polio and the JE vaccine. Now, when we talk about the diluents, many times what happens that we are getting the vaccines and diluents have been broken. And then the question is what I can use instead of that particular diluent. Mind well, friends, we have to just stick to that diluents which have been supplied with the vaccine only. No substitute like other distilled water or the normal saline should be used, because these the diluents, they are not only that normal saline or distilled water, but there are some pH configurations and there are specific stabilizers when used. So better we should not substitute it with the other form of diluents. Now, in case of suppose multiple dose vaccines, if there is a lapse in administration of sequential dose, suppose you have given say 3 dose vaccine schedule is there. You have given 2 doses. Third dose was to be given after 1 month, and it has been delayed. So what will happen if there is a lapse in the administration of vaccine? See, as Dr. Vadwas has said, if there is an immune memory. So suppose if you have missed that 3rd dose to be given at particular time, if it is delayed, you should not restart the vaccine whole series, rather than continue from there. And we can continue the 3rd dose at whenever the patient is approached by us. Now, interchangeability of brand of the same antigenic makeup. What is example? Suppose you have a Rotavac and you have given you have given 2 doses of Rotavac, and then you substitute with the 3rd dose with Rotasure. You can do it because it's the same antigenic makeup. But if there is a brand with a different antigenic makeup, suppose you have given a Rotavac and there is something like say Rotarix. So these are the different antigenic makeup. So we should not be using it interchangeability. But in general, we should not interchange the brand unless the earlier used one is in shortage or not known. Suppose our friend, a pediatrician, has given some vaccine, he has not mentioned it. Then in that case, you can interchange whatever is available with you. But particularly in Rota, if you don't know the previously given a vaccination brand, then even if they must have given the Rotarix, we should give total 3 doses of Rota. So we cannot go for second dose only, we can stop. So total maximum number of doses to be completed. Now, what is the grace period? See, this is very important concept because many times it happens that we have given the vaccine first dose and second dose to be given, say, at the interval of 28 days or 4 weeks, and patient is by chance coming earlier. What is that if you have given the dose earlier, whether it is allowed or not? So inactivated vaccine, there is a provision that given up to 4 days before the minimum interval is considered valid. But if it is given before the 5 days, it should be repeated. So for example, suppose if your cutoff is 28 days, and if you're given 2 days, 2 to 26, 25 days, it is allowed. But if it is less than 4 days, that grace period, then you have to repeat it. So this particular 4 days grace period, it is, it applies to live vaccine with the same antigen. Usually we keep it, suppose we have given a MMR, right? And if you are going to give the same vaccine again, then this 4 days grace period is not allowed. Okay. So this is not applied with a different live vaccine. MMR to MMR is fine, but MMR to chickenpox, we have to keep a minimum interval of 4 weeks. Now, again the problem. After giving, suppose we have given a JE kill vaccine, and it was brought to notice on the same day that vaccine was expired one. Then what should we do? Because we know that this kind of things, they happen our routine day-to-day practice. So first of all, we have to apologize that yes, we have made the mistake. But as JE is a killed vaccine, we can give the repeat dose right on that day. So we need not to wait. But suppose it is in the case of the live vaccine, suppose varicella vaccine, you have given it, and after 15 days the patient has come to us and saying that it was an expired one. Then we should repeat it after a gap of 4 weeks. We cannot repeat it at 15 days. While in case of inactivated vaccine, we can give it at any time because we do not have to keep the distance between 2 inactivated vaccines. Now, what about this vaccine syringes? Because many times we are using that BD and Dispo syringes, but these are not the ideal vaccine syringes. We have to use either preferably the pre-filled syringe or autolock sort of syringe, and it should be used rather than these vaccine syringes. Suppose Dispo and BD syringe, which is shown in the right side of this screen, they can be used to prepare the vaccine, but as such we have to use the pre-filled syringe or auto-disposable or autolock syringes. Particularly, there are specifications for this size because almost all the vaccine length, needle length is 5 by 8 inches, and there is 20 to 25 gauge to be used for the rest of the vaccines. But we know that there is a specific requirement for BCG vaccine. So we have a BCG syringe, or we can use the specific 1 ml syringes for the BCG vaccination. So this particular length is important because when the concept, as Dr. Wadhwa said, because if you want to give it subcutaneous, if you want to give intramuscular, if you want to give intradermal, this length comes into picture. So the proper site, route and technique is also very important. We know that we are all giving the vaccination, particularly less than 2 years at the anterolateral thread of thigh because of the proper muscle mass, and about 2 years you can use both either anterolateral thigh or on the deltoid. Now, the site is important because if you give it certain vaccines like hepatitis B, if you are given at a gluteal region, it is not considered valid. So similarly, the rabies vaccine, you have to give it at either anterolateral, the thigh, or on the deltoid area. Now, when you give the vaccine, the needle angle is also important. When you are giving intradermal route, it is a 15-degree angle from the skin. If it is to be given subcutaneous, you have to give it at a 45-degree angle. And if you want to give it intramuscular, it has to be perpendicular 90-degree angle, because then only it will reach the muscle where it is supposed to go. So the proper site, route and technique is of utmost importance. Similarly, for oral vaccine also, if you want to give the oral polio drops or rotavirus vaccine, we have to see that it has to be put it on the side of the mouth rather than directly on the posterior pharyngeal wall or on the uvula. Otherwise, there will be a gag reflex and child will vomit. So if you put it on the side of the cheek, it will be absorbed and the less chances of vomiting. So that's why this is important. So for vaccination in general, it has to be a 6 rights which has to be considered. One, right vaccine. You have to choose proper vaccine. Also see the brand and the vaccination which are giving. Right patient. You have to see the patient, whether it is immunocompromised, whether it is the age of the vaccine. What is the right time for that vaccination? Right manner and route, as we discussed. Right dosage also, because we know that the certain doses are different. Suppose it's a 3 milligram and 6 milligram of the JE vaccine. Right documentation. Now here we lack all the times, because many times what we do is we give the vaccine on the anterolateral thigh, and we have not mentioned it which particular side, right or left. Suppose if you have given the 2 vaccines on the right side and one on the left thigh, we have to mention right upper thigh, right lower thigh. Why? Because if there is some adverse reaction is there, we can come to know that it is because of this particular vaccine, and that's documentation is very important. And documentation in your file on the paper, even the sticker if you all apply is fine. Otherwise, date manufacturing and the expiry date is must, and proper name of the vaccine which you have given, it has to be documented, because it is not only good for you but also for your friends if the patient goes to somewhere else and they know which one particular brand was given. Now, after that, general principles of the cold vaccination. Now I'll be going for the cold chain and storage. Now this is also very important as far as our the private sector vaccination is concerned, because we know that we are, private sector people are, always doing some compromise in cold chain vaccination storage, cold chain storage. And so that's why we should be understanding. Now, what is cold chain? It is a system of storing and transporting vaccine at a recommended temperature range from point of manufacture to point of use. Now, point of manufacture can be some other country, and point of use can be somewhere in a distant place in the taluka place. So many things will come into picture, because the vaccine has been manufactured somewhere. From there, it will be airlifted. It will go to some train station. It will go to some storage level. Ultimately, it will go through vaccine carrier and will reach to the end user. So the whole system is important. And here, the temperature range has to be maintained, and that is cold chain. But most of the time, we think that cold chain means the vaccine has to be kept cool. But mind well, it is not only heat which is causing the damage, but also the cold or freezing also causes the damage. So the freezing as well as the cold, both heat, both can damage the vaccine. So cold chain is the system where it should be maintained between the temperature which is recommended. Now, then the question comes, which are the vaccines which are sensitive to heat? Means they have to be, kept it in a cooler compartment. So these are the vaccine. So if you see from top to down, the BCG, polio, rota, IPV, measles, these are the more heat sensitive vaccine. So they have to be kept in a cooler compartment. While if you go downwards, the TT, BCG, Penta, hepatitis B, PCV, they are least sensitive. Similarly, if you see that which are the vaccine which are sensitive to freeze. So if these vaccines have been coming in contact with the cold or a freezing temperature, they get destroyed. So hepatitis B, pneumococcal vaccine, Penta, TT containing vaccine, these all are very much sensitive to freezing. So what happens? See, most important difference between the freezing damage and the heat damage is cumulative. That means if the vaccine has come into contact with the particular temperature 2, 3, 4, 5 times, then ultimately cumulatively what is the damage that is to be considered. So it can be 5%, 5%, 5%. But if it is a freezing, if the vaccine is being exposed to freezing, then there will be all or none phenomenon. It will be a total damage. So it won't be that the vaccine is not to be used. So if the vaccine which is freeze sensitive, it is coming in contact with this polar temperature or this freezing temperature, then it has to be destroyed or discarded, not to be given. So that is very important. Now this is something which has been, vaccine. This is for government program where they are giving the vaccination in the outreach area, and there they keep the vaccine sometimes during the vaccination program or the session in the on the wells which have been having ice packs. So there is the system where the vaccine can be out of the cold chain, but still it is effective. So that is called controlled temperature chain. This means those are the vaccines which have been least sensitive to heat. They remain stable for varying period of the time, even at a higher temperature. In event of cold chain failure, rather we have kept it outside cold chain. Still they are working, like hepatitis B, BCG. Rotacil. So these things are important for government vaccination, where they are giving in a vaccination session, they keep it outside, and still, because we have seen that COVID vaccines, certain vaccines are having a very stringent requirement of the cold chain, and certain vaccines can be kept on the table and they were using it. So that's why this is important concept of controlled temperature chain, but it is not good for private sector vaccination. So these are the things when they are doing a routine immunization session site. So they will put either on a well or they can keep it outside. Now, there is a damage because of the sunlight also. So certain vaccines we have been, sensitive to light. They are light sensitive. So those are the vaccine will be coming in the amber colored bottle. And that's what we are seeing, that measles containing vaccines, even BCG and MMR, these all are coming in a brown color, amber color bottle, because they are light sensitivity, the sensitive vaccines. Now, so cold chain equipments, if we say, it starts from, storage to transport to, there are certain equipments which are required, and also temperature monitoring devices. Now, this cold chain equipments, ultimately, it makes a huge chunk of that cold chain maintenance. So what are those? So it can be regional cold storage, where the vaccines have been stored in a bulk. There can be a cold room, walk-in cold rooms, right? These are the areas where usually temperature is around 2 to 8 degrees. Walk-in freezers, here the temperature is -15 to -20 degrees. Well, they have the trucks which are also having that AC. So that is a transportation. There they maintain the temperature. Deep freezer. Now deep freezer is -15 to -20 degrees. Now these are the vaccines, the freezers which are not used for us, but they have to be kept for vaccine storage only. What is most important as per our concern is ice-line refrigerator, that is ILR. Now this is a wonderful thing. If you have it in private sector, you can have, because there is a 2 to 8 degrees centigrade temperature maintenance in this ILR. Because this ILR is having the coils in the walls of it, and rather in the bottom, so it gets cooled from below upwards. So that is the important thing, because it is totally reversed to our the domestic refrigerator, where the cooling upwards occurs from above down. Now this particular ILR can be of two priority. One is the lid which is openable from upper side, and this is the right extreme which is showing a front opening ILR. Now there is something like cold boxes where the temperature is 2 to 8 degrees, and there are vaccine carriers which is 2 to 8 degrees. Now vaccine carriers and ILR, if you consider what is the holdover time. Now what is holdover time? Holdover time is the time by which the temperature can be kept till 8 degrees, because maximum cutoff is 8 degrees. So 24 to 72 hours is the holdover time for ILR, while vaccine carrier, it is around 24 hours. So these kind of vaccine carriers, they are having ultimately in the walls of it, they have the frozen ice packs. Now we know that the frozen ice packs, as soon as you remove from the freezer compartment, they have been almost frozen at the temperature of -20. Now we don't want that -20, because otherwise it will cause a breeze damage to the vaccine which are coming in contact with that. So we have to bring it to the 0 degree. Now how can you bring it to 0 degree? Now there is a mechanism by, if you keep it outside on a table, and once this ice packs, they start sweating, means if you see the drops over it, or if you shake it and if you can feel the water in it, then it is called, it is the proper 0 degree, right? So that is the way we have to maintain, take that the ice packs, and then you put it in a vaccine refrigerator. So previously we were having vaccine carriers like old types, where there are chances that this vaccine can come in contact with the ice packs. But now UNICEF has introduced these particular vaccine carriers where there is no direct contact with the ice packs. So this is about vaccine carrier. Now, best thing to have in our practice is to have a purpose-based refrigerator. Now, what is this? We know that we have seen this kind of refrigerator in where the Coca-Cola, the bottles and all that, they are keeping it in the cold drink, cellars. So here there is some difference. It has been, changed according to medical requirement. But see, here the advantage is it is all throughout 2 to 8 degrees centigrade, the purpose-built refrigerator. And you can see it from outside because of the glass. So you can, know which vaccine you want to pick it up. So you open it up and you take it up immediately. So there will be less time when you keep the door open. So that is the best thing about purpose-built refrigerator. And also it is having a data logger, and you can see the temperature which is maintained from outside. Even it can be connected to the computers, and you can get the data what was the temperature every yearly. So these are the advantages of this purpose-built refrigerator. But we know that because it is costly, maybe around 35,000-40,000 it is coming, depending on the size. But usually majority of the pediatrician friends, they are keeping it in the domestic refrigerator. So domestic refrigerator, if you keep it, there are problems because the temperature which is coming from above downwards. So you have to be very precise which vaccine to be put in which compartment. And basic requirement for this domestic refrigerator is we should be having a double door freeze. First thing. Second thing is we should not put anything other than the vaccines in this particular domestic refrigerator. We should not be putting blood. We should not be putting water bottle, not milk, nothing else other than the vaccine. Then you should be, because purpose should be to keep it in the vaccination only. Now, when you use this domestic refrigerator, we have to see that whether that proper temperature is maintained. For that, different temperature maintaining measuring equipments are there. Say it is dial thermometer or digital thermometer, or you have an alcohol thermometer where you can put in different compartment and you can look at it, what is the temperature which is going on, and you have to measure it. The best thing is to have electronic data logger, because here we can get almost the chart, 24 hours chart, what was the temperature which was maintained all throughout. And these were all because of for the temperature or heat sensitivity vaccines, right? Because they will be giving us whether this going above 8 degree or not. So the heat damage is going to happen or not. But what happened for freeze damage? We have this thing or things, freeze tags or the freeze watch. These are used for the freezing damage. So here what happens, if this particular thing, it is having an exposure of the cold for below 0 degree for more than 60 minutes, this particular blinking light will turn into red, and then it will be that particular vaccine to be destroyed. Similarly, here this is a bulb where the solution is there. As soon as it comes to contact with more than less than 0 degree, more than 60 minutes, it will rupture and this will become a different color. So there it will give us an idea that now vaccine has been freeze damaged. So this is particular typical refrigerator temperature monitoring chart. We have to at least go for twice a day, not regularly 24 hours. It is ideal, but still in our practice, at least twice a day we have to manage. It is to be written and it has to be maintained. Now, one word about VVM. We know that vaccine vial monitor. This is a very important thing because nowadays all the vaccines which are in the government supply, all WHO pre-qualified vaccine, they are having a vaccine vial monitor. Now, these are the vaccine vial monitors which are giving us the idea whether this vaccine is getting damaged because of the heat or not. So meanwhile, again, this is only for the heat sensitive vaccine or heat damage we can come to know. So what is VVM 2, 7, 14, 30? Now there are different VVMs that will tell us that for how long this vaccine is going to be potent. So vaccine potency will be damaged if your VVM 2 is been exposed to temperature more than 37 degree. So it can be potent till 2 days. So suppose a vaccine like OPV or a rotaviral vaccine, they will be having a VVM 2. So if they have been exposed to the temperature, cumulative temperature more than 37 degree, more than 2 days, this VVM will be damaged. So that will give you idea that it has been non-potent vaccine. Similarly, those vaccines who have been less heat sensitive, like hepatitis B vaccine or HPV, they will be having VVM 30. So there it will be giving a period of almost 30 days. Before that it gets damaged. So that's the importance of VVM. Now VVM, to read it is important. See, whenever the VVM we see, if you see the darker circle in the center, then it is not to be used. So the square which is there in the circular area, which is lighter than the circular area, then vaccine is okay. But if it is darker than that, then we should not use that particular vaccine. So this was for the heat damage. Now what about freezing damage? There is something like shake test. So if you think that your vial has been exposed to the cold or the freezing temperature, then what we can do, you can put it, like you can shake it, because usually it is a homogeneous solution. So you just shake the vial and then keep it just like that for 4 minutes, and you assess. If the particular vial is showing a sedimentation at the bottom very quickly, then it is the damaged vaccine because of freezing. This is a rough idea. You can get it because usually once you shake it, that homogeneous solution should last longer and it should not get sedimented faster. So that's the way we can look at it, what is the damage, freezing damage. Now, domestic refrigerator, as you know that many of or majority of us are using this, we should be knowing that one thing is it has to be double doored. Second thing is it has to be having the data logger or the temperature monitoring instruments. And look at this. Here there are now refrigerators available which can be connected to inverter. It runs on home inverter and consumes less than 2 CFL bulbs. This is very wonderful as far as we are concerned, where we get the failure in power supply. We can at least have the inverter backup, and that's why it should be used. Now, as I said, the refrigerator has to be used only for vaccines. No vaccine should be kept in compartments in the freezer, chiller, or door or basket of the refrigerator. And suppose if you are using that particular temperature, never use the water bottles, because otherwise that water bottle is to be used to make a cold bulk, but not for drinking. So you can make a colored water bottle. You should put it in a door compartment and in a vegetable tray, where you can keep it so that if in case the power failure occurs, that will keep the temperature of refrigerator for some more period of time. So these are the areas where we have to put the thermometers, even in the door, in our upper door, the compartment, refrigerator freezing compartment, and in the normal compartment. So it has to be a double door fridge. And here we should be very strict about which shelf should be having which vaccine. As I said, upper shelf should be having the vaccines which have been heat sensitive. The OPV, BCG, rotavirus, and freeze that vaccine to be on upper compartment, and last compartment where we can put the vaccines which are least heat sensitive. And now, similar thing, if you are using ILR, as I said, it is getting pulled from below upwards. You have to put those vaccines which have been freeze sensitive closer to expiry on the top, and those who are heat sensitive should be kept in a downward, the lowest compartment. So these are the refrigerator and deep freezer. Deep freezer, we are not going to use it, but if we are using deep freezer, we can use it for only making the ice packs. Now here, ice packs has to be kept in a vertically and a crisscross pattern, and thermometer has to be kept in that. So this particular deep freezer is only for making this ice packs. Now, this is very common situation which we arise, that if the power failure happens, what should we do? So first of all, we have to record the time of start of power failure. Then we have to record the temperature after power restored. So that is, we should be knowing it. Never open the door frequently to monitor temperature during this outages. And we have to have a backup of this alternate power supply always when we are using this kind of refrigerator. But still, if you are using a domestic refrigerator, and if power failure is less than 4 hours, don't do anything. Keep the vaccine in the fridge. Don't open the door frequently. If the power failure is more than 4 days, then I think we have to just have the alternate availability of the unit where this vaccine can be shifted. Now, if the power failure is more than 4 hours, and if you think that there is no other option available, then we have to at least shift it into the cold box, or we have to put in a vaccine carrier. There we can keep it for at least 24 hours, and you can shift to other area. Now, suppose the situation where the sister has found that there is a power failure and the vaccine was kept in ILR, and they started removing the vaccines after 4 hours. No, it should be done or not? No, because this particular ILR, we know that holdover time is more than almost 24 to 72 hours. So it is only for domestic refrigerator where that 4 hours time is cut off. So holdover time is important because it is different for different vaccine, the storage instruments. So here I end my presentation. Thank you so much.
Dr. Nidhi.
Hello. Very, very, very basic, but most of us pediatricians who are doing their private practice, we also didn't know all this about the cold chain and about how to monitor everything. I think it's really very good. And there are some question answers, Doctor. I'll ask Dr.
There are few questions in the chat box. Can you please take them, Dr. Nidhi?
Yeah, one of them is heat sensitive cumulative. How can you access it? I really don't get the question, but I think how
Yeah,
can you
so-
say that the vaccine has been exposed to this much of heat for this much of time and how many times? Perhaps that is the question.
So what I said is the heat sensitivity is cumulative. Means if our vaccine has got exposed to 37 degrees centigrade for say 15 minutes, right? So it doesn't get damaged or it is not to be discarded because vaccine vial monitor, suppose it is 2, 7, 14 or 30, whichever VAM is there, it will calculate that this vaccine was exposed to this particular 37 degrees centigrade for 15 minutes, then again 1 hour. So cumulatively, if it is becoming more than 2 days of heat exposure at 37 degree, then the vaccine monitor will change the color. So that is called cumulative. But for heat, the freeze sensitivity vaccine, what will happen? If it comes contact with the freezing temperature, it will get damaged immediately. So it is all or none. That's why where we use VVM for heat sensitivity. So that is the concept.
The next question was,
What?
how long after IVIG can vaccines be used? I think Ritesh has asked it. And IVIG. And which vaccines can be given immediately and which vaccines to be given after a different time?
So I think this will come under special situation, IVIG, but basically it depends on the dose of IVIG which we are giving. So depending upon that, 3 months to 11 months, we have to keep a gap for live inactivated vaccine to be given after IVIG because it is antibodies. And as the Dr. Vadva sir has given the concept of live inactivated vaccine, which has been using the circulating antibodies, we should be keeping a gap of say 3 months to 11 months.
Any time. Live have to wait and could be anything like you said 3 to 11 months. Specific antibodies, specific areas. But if you give IVIG, say 1 gram per kg, it will be 10 months. If it's 2 gram per kg, it will be 11 months. So that way there's a chart which we must see which antibodies were given. But suppose general IVIG is given, then 10 months, 11 months, 1 milligram per kg, 2 milligram per kg. That way.
Sir, what about killed vaccines?
Killed you can give anytime.
Okay.
There is another question. Should a baby be vaccinated with vaccine brought to OPD by family in ice bag? This situation everybody is facing. How to avoid the situation in this case of persistent for the parents? How to change it?
Generally, should not be doing it. Dr. Chetan, what do you do? I definitely refuse to do it because, you never know how the ice was kept, whether it was less than 2, more than 8, whatever happened.
I really don't know the contents of the program. This is a more ethical and perhaps a more medical legal question. From a very legal point of view, if I want to answer this, you cannot refuse. This is like any other drug. If the patient wants to buy the drug from a particular place and get it administered in your hospital, you say, I use the drugs used from my pharmacy. That is not done. So you can just mention it on the prescription that vaccine was brought by the patient himself. As long as it is not an expired vaccine, as long as it is not a frozen vaccine at the time you are administering it, you cannot legally refuse to give the vaccine which is brought by the patient.
Sir, what I do in my practice, because this is the very common situation we come across. So what I say, first thing is I show them our purpose-built refrigerator, which is there in my cabin. So I'll say them that this is the temperature you can see this minus, it's a 4 degree plus 4 degrees centigrade is maintaining. So what I say is, see, this is the way we keep the vaccines. One thing. Second thing, I pull out one vaccine and I can't be very sure whether this is a potent vaccine or not. I myself cannot be very sure unless it has been VVM is working. Okay, so the freezing damage cannot be very sure, that is can be convinced. And third thing, what I say them, because this vaccine is not a simple drug, it is something very used to be for a precise thing. So we have to be very careful about cold chain vaccination. And I myself, I bring my daughter to the hospital to give the vaccination to her rather than I take vaccination to my place. So this is the example I say, because it's so simple that it is better to take the child to the hospital rather than to take the vaccine out of the cold chain. This is a way we try to convince them. But what you said medical legal is a different thing. But you can have your own policy that yes, I would not like to give the vaccination which has been brought by you because I'm not very sure about the cold chain. So that is a debatable thing.
In Jalandhar, we have a policy. If anybody brings a vaccine from outside, no pediatrician is going to give. This we are taking care.
No, but first time, like you said, first time once they've got it, we can give it after explaining like what Dr. Chetan said and by write in bold letters that the vaccine was brought by the patient. So once they see that, they will ask you, why did you write this? So we say that we're not taking the responsibility because
Correct.
we're sure of the cold chain. Next time they themselves are careful. Nobody does it again after that.
So my question is for Dr. Arun. In case of neonatal SLE, if a baby is receiving IVIG, after how many weeks or immediately can we get BCG on the next follow-up or not? Or we have to wait for 3 months?
So IVIG, BCG can be given. BCG is actually like I showed you T cell response. So that's not a problem.
T cell response.
Dr. Chetan, what's your opinion?
So for any IVIG, we know that the BCG or inactivated vaccine can be given. It won't be harmful to give. It may be having a reduced efficacy or somewhat, but it can be given. But for live attenuated vaccine, we have to keep a gap according to the table which has been shown IVIG, because they are circulating antibody which may interfere with this action of this particular live vaccine. So it should not be given. It should be followed that way.
Thank you.
Questions are over. I think next session.
Thank you very much, Dr. Arun and Dr. Chetan, for this session. Now I'll request, and thank you very much, Dr. Nidhi and Dr. Ashwini Singhal, for moderating this session. I'll now request Dr. Vineet Arora. Dr. Vineet Arora is the practicing pediatrician in Ludhiana. He's past president IAP Punjab and past president IAP Ludhiana also. So the second moderator is Dr. Anuradha Bansal. She is Associate Professor Pediatrics at PIMS Jalandhar. She has got 13 international national publications and 6 textbook chapters to her name. She is a very passionate child health blogger and founder of Healthy Kids Community. Over to you, moderators. Thank you.
Dr. Ritesh,
Sure.
there is one more question from Dr. Bharat Mehra.
Okay.
If we can take it, only one question.
We can take
Yeah.
it. Sir.
Sometimes the vaccine kept for a long time, some precipitates are formed, particularly Synflorix is mentioning. Is it okay? I think same thing. If there are precipitates, we have to shake it, and if you can make it a homogeneous suspension, that's fair enough. We can use it, isn't it, Dr. Wadhwa? You're mute. Please unmute yourself.
Dr. Vadra, unmute.
No, I'm saying that as long as we are sure that it wasn't frozen at any time, it's good enough. No problem.
Okay, thank you.
So we can go to our next session now. Dr. Vineet and Dr. Anuradha, please take over.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Ritesh. So now we begin with 2 commonly used vaccines which are available under UIP also, BCG vaccine and polio vaccine. To speak about these 2 important vaccines, we have with us Dr. Harmesh Singh Bains. For the people of Punjab, he needs no introduction. He's Professor and Head Department of Pediatrics at Punjab Institute of Medical Sciences, ex-HOD DMC Ludhiana. He has many titles to his credit. He was Vice President IIP, Central IIP, Vice President, President of AHA Punjab, President of IIP Punjab, President of NNF Punjab, and has been Election Commissioner of AHA for many years. Numerous publications to his credits, more than 200, and hundreds of sessions and international presentations. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Central IAP, Dr. Ritesh and Dr. Anuradha for kind introduction, and my dear Vineet as moderator of this session. So we will take these 2 basic vaccines. Is my presentation visible, Dr. Anuradha?
No, sir. Not yet.
Sir,
Sir,
you
it's
have
visible,
slideshow option in the
header only.
after file, edit, view, insert, format, slide, and then slideshow.
So just click
File,
slideshow once.
file, edit, view. Sir, आगे जाके है जी slideshow, edit, view,
आगे,
insert, format, slide, and
आगे,
then slideshow.
और आगे सर,
आगे आगे सर, to your
सर
right,
आगे,
yes.
हाँ जी,
और
और
आगे
आगे,
जी,
सर और आगे,
slide के बाद slideshow सर.
आगे सर, next to next.
नजर ही नहीं आ रहा।
सर ये ऊपर ही है सर, insert
यहाँ
के बाद
का-
format,
जी,
format के बाद slide and then slideshow.
सर कर्सर फॉर्मेट पे है, उसे आप स्लाइड के बाद स्लाइड शो पर लेकर आइए।
तो इसमें नजर ही नहीं आता कहीं।
सर ऊपर टॉप पे,
हाँ,
जहाँ पे लाइव और यूट्यूब लिखा हुआ है, उसके साथ में फॉर्मेट आ रहा है आपकी स्क्रीन का।
सर आपका कर्सर भी मूव नहीं कर रहा है, एक बार दोबारा
स्टॉप करके करता हूँ।
हाँ जी, हाँ जी,
ठीक है, ओके।
हाँ जी। स्क्रीन शेयर कर लो सर पहले। सर ये राइट साइड में नीचे है सर। October 23 readme issues in सर
सर थर्ड नीचे से थर्ड लास्ट रो में राइट साइड लास्ट में है। ऊपर जाइए, ऊपर जाइए।
राइट।
हाँ अभी ऊपर जाइए। हाँ अभी बस उसके नीचे नहीं, आप 4th रो में चले जाइए। हाँ 4th रो में लास्ट लिखा हुआ है October 23। हाँ उसके बाजू में, उसके बाजू। बस वही रो में लास्ट। अरे हाँ अभी उसके बाजू में।
इससे अगले वाला सर, इससे अगले वाला।
उसके बाजू वाला।
इसमें ये एक्चुअली हिडन है।
हाँ उसके बाजू वाले। हाँ बस इसके नीचे वाला ऑक्टोबर लिखा हुआ है ना।
October
this
23
is covered by the pictures ना।
अच्छा नहीं, आप खोलो तो वो हाँ
नहीं,
वो वाला।
ये वाला
अनुराधा
खोलो
क्लिक
सर।
होएगी अगर मैं करूँगा तो इसको व्यू वाला चेंज करना पड़ेगा मुझे।
रीड ओनली चलेगा सर, खुलेगा।
सर आप मुझे मेल कर दीजिए, मैं स्क्रीन शेयर कर देती
अच्छा
हूँ।
एक काम करो सर, मैं करता हूँ, आप
अब
स्टॉप शेयरिंग
आ
करो।
गया, अब आ गया, अब मैं खोलता हूँ।
हाँ खोलो। डॉक्टर रितेश आपके पास है ना प्रेजेंट?
है सर, ये है, ये खुल गया सर। सर ऊपर स्क्रीन स्लाइड शो है, देखो ऊपर बिल्कुल, फाइल, एडिट, व्यू, फर्स्ट लाइन, आगे आके स्लाइड शो, स्लाइड एंड स्लाइड शो, आगे इससे आगे सर। सर मैं कर दूं जी?
कर दो आप कर दो।
तो फिर आप स्क्रीन लीव करो जी।
मैं
स्टॉप शेयरिंग करो।
लेकिन आना चाहिए, आया क्यों नहीं है? हाँ
सर ये स्लाइड शो है ऊपर, ये रहा।
और ये आपने मतलब अलग उसमें खोला हुआ है, ऑफिस में
अगर-
खोला हुआ है,
हम्म।
तो चेंज हो जाता है।
व्यू
सर
से
यहाँ
भी
नहीं,
नहीं
आगे है
आएगा।
सर, आगे व्यू के बाद इंसर्ट, सर व्यू के बाद इंसर्ट, देन फॉर्मेट, देन स्लाइड एंड देन स्लाइड शो।
यहाँ फॉर्मेट के बाद म्यूट आ रहा है, इसमें वो आइकन ही नहीं नजर आ रहा। देयर इज समथिंग, मैंने कुछ गड़बड़ कर दिया।
चलो
डॉक्टर
कोई नहीं
रितेश,
सर,
आप कर दो अपने से। आप
आप
इसमें
सर
भी नहीं।
एग्जिट कर लो, वो रितेश जी कर लेंगे।
ठीक है,
आप स्टॉप शेयरिंग करो।
ओके।
ओके।
ये मैंने मिनिमाइज किया हुआ, ये करके देखो दोबारा।
करके देखो सर।
हाँ,
ये हो गया।
सर आप शेयर करो दोबारा से जरा। दोबारा से शेयर करके देखो सर।
ओके।
सर ये अक्टूबर 23 पे आ जाओ जी। यस, दिस वन।
वही कर रहा है फिर भी।
चलो सर मैं शेयर कर देता हूँ, आप स्क्रीन।
आप कर दो, चलो आप कर दो। ओके, मैं स्टॉप शेयर कर रहा हूँ।
ठीक है सर, मैं शेयर स्क्रीन करता हूँ एंड दिस थर्ड। बीसीजी वैक्सीन वाला है ना सर आपका?
हाँ जी, हाँ जी, हाँ जी।
ठीक है सर, ठीक है, अच्छी हो गया। राइट सर, क्या हो गया? दोबारा गायब हो गया?
हो गया। अब मुझे तो नजर आ रहा है।
सर स्टार्ट कर दो जी।
ओके, sorry for wasting time. Now we discuss about BCG vaccine. Can I have the next slide, please? Slide आप move करोगे रितेश? Yes. So this actually basics we all know. This is just a revision kind of sort of presentation. This is a bovine tubercular strain vaccine, and there is 0.1 to 0.4 million live viable bacilli per dose. And this is lyophilized preparation in vacuum sealed, multi-dose amber colored ampule. Amber colored is because this is sensitive to sunlight. Then there is normal saline as diluent. We have to use the diluent provided with the vaccine, stored at 2 to 8 degrees and protected from light, as I mentioned, to be used within 4 to 6 hours of reconstitution, because there is no preservative in this vaccine, so there are chances of infection and toxic shock syndrome. Dose is 0.5 ml up to 1 month of age and 0.1 ml thereafter. This is given intradermal left upper arm. Efficacy ranges from 59% against pulmonary to 85% in severe cases like miliary and meningitis. Next one, please. Now, what is the WHO recommendation for BCG vaccine usage? Next one. A preterm low birth baby discharged from NICU, weight on discharge is 1.5 kilo. Can BCG be given? Here it's recommended that any stable baby can be maybe even up to 32 weeks or more should be given BCG vaccine at birth. So there is no problem in that. Next one. I don't see the text on the slides, Ritesh. Can BCG be given along with the next one? Can BCG be given along with other vaccines and with MMR? Yes, this can be given with all these vaccines because this is just giving the titles, not material on the slide. Next one. A newborn is being given, I think this is not the appropriate slides set, Ritesh. The newborn is being given BCG and has been explained that there could be a scar later. She says her 4-year-old son has no such scar, and does he need a repeat dose? Scar actually doesn't show the failure of vaccine. So this is recommended that there is no need to give BCG even if there is no scar. Next one. Next slide.
आ गया सर अब ठीक है जी
Bye.
हाँ जी हाँ जी
Yes, show that. So there is no need to do Montauk test in this. Up to even 5 years we can give vaccine. Here there is a spelling mistake of Montauk test. It can be given up to 5 years without doing a prior Montauk or IGRA test, and this is not recommended beyond 5 years of age. But it can be given to high-risk cases, to children, adolescents, and adults who are IGRA active. And Government of India is now planning to start BCG vaccine as a trial study in adults patients also all over India, selecting few states in the beginning. Next one. Now, next question is, mother is under treatment for drug-sensitive pulmonary tuberculosis and delivered a newborn who is to be started on INH prophylaxis. The pediatrician wants to know if the BCG is INH resistant and can it be administered to the baby. Yes, this is to be given to the baby, and though it's not INH resistant, here we have to take precautions that mother, if open case, we advise the mother to use mask while carrying the baby, and WHO recommends that different kind of guidelines. Some developed countries follow that. Let's wait till 6 months, give INH, and then screen, and then give BCG. But in India, we give BCG straightforward at birth. Next one. The pus from a suppurated BCG node of a 6-month child was sent for gene expert, and it has detected Mycobacterium tuberculosis, which is rifampicin sensitive. The question is there any need for ATT? Next one, Ritesh. The gene expert detects Mycobacterium tuberculosis, maybe any kind of Mycobacterium. So this shows that it's positive. Now, there are many times patients come that there is lymph node enlargement, or there is a pus formation, or discharge, or many kind of symptoms or problems. But a suppurative BCG node does not warrant anti-tubercular treatment. There can be BCG lymphadenitis. This resolves on its own, and we have to reassure the patients, and no need of even antibiotics. In suppurative or fluctuant form, it's recommended that repeated needle aspiration can be done or excision biopsy needed only if not resolving after that, or there are multiple matted lymph nodes or sinus formation. In BCG, that is disseminated form of tuberculosis of BCG due to BCG. Here, disseminated means this involves more than 2 sites, anatomical sites, apart from the local lymph nodes, and culture is positive. They may be positive blood culture or bone marrow culture, and systemic signs may be there, or they call it systemic syndrome. That is, there may be fever or weight loss or anemia. Then 3 to 4 drugs ATT is recommended in these cases, and maybe INH, rifampicin, ethambutol, streptomycin. But one thing we have to remember that paragenamide is not effective in these cases, so that is not included in the 3 to 4 drug regimen to these cases. Next one. So this was just a brief about BCG. Next one. Now we come to other vaccine, that is polio, and many changes have occurred in the schedule and in the composition of these vaccines, and now we are eradicated polio from our country. Next one. What is the present IPV and OPV schedule in ACVIP and government recommendation? Next one. This is 0.5 ml IM IPV at 6 weeks, 10 weeks and 14 weeks. This is ACVIP recommendations, and booster at 1.5 years and 5 years. 0 dose OPV we have to continue, but government recommends OPV 0 dose plus oral polio at 6, 10 and 14 weeks and 18 months. And they recommend fractional IPV ID at 6 weeks, 14 weeks and 9 months. So this is little different as compared to recommendation by ACVIP. Pulse polio immunization doses to all children below 5 years is advised by both ACVIP as well as Government of India. Next one. The available polio vaccines are bivalent, OPV, monovalent, and IPV. And trivalent was stopped after which in 2016. Monovalent OPV stock is kept for outbreaks, and so bivalent OPV is used, and IPV is the current main vaccine to be used in the next one. Why should we continue with polio immunization now? Because to achieve WHO certification for polio eradication, a country needs 3 consecutive years, 0 wild polio virus case. And to achieve actual polio eradication, there should be 0 wild polio virus and no vaccine-derived polio virus and no vaccine-associated parentic polio. So all should be nil to have certification for eradication. So maintaining optimal population immunity is must. That's why polio vaccine is still continuing because we have 2 neighboring countries as endemic zones like Pakistan and Afghanistan. So we have to continue for some certain time. We will see that this type 2 bivalent is usually responsible for PDPV and VAPP, so that needs to be stopped. Next one. So potential hurdles in achieving polio eradication, as I mentioned, is importation from the countries which are endemic, and VAP and VDPV, which is mainly due to bivalent polio vaccine. Next one. What are the drawbacks of OPV? Next. So this I mentioned 2 major drawbacks. Next slide. Now VAP is a rare but serious and inevitable adverse event associated with OPV in an individual. These are the cases of acute flaccid paralysis, they just resemble as AFP cases whose stool samples show vaccine-related virus, but no wild polio virus is isolated. Now, what happens is there is a change. There is loss of mutation of vaccine virus during replication in the gut, and this is reconverted into the virulent vaccine, which causes neurovirulence. And this is indistinguishable from naturally occurring polio. And that means the residual paralysis continues beyond 60 days, and it has to be within 4 days to 40 days after giving polio vaccine. And stool culture, as I mentioned, is positive in these cases, but it shows virus vaccine-related polio virus. Next one. Now, VDPV is in this. What happens? This is derivatives of OP strains, indicating divergence in the sequence. Now, this emerges after multiplication of 10-meter strain of OPV virus in the gut due to recombination with other enteroviruses. So these vaccine virus derived strain change and revert to form that can cause paralysis. And again, this is the cause or potential to cause paralytic polio in humans and sustained circulation. So this is vaccine-related circulation and causing problems. So CD, that is circulating viral dependent polio virus paralysis is also clinically indistinguishable from paralysis due to wild polio. It's a similar type of clinical picture in these cases. So we have to think about this to stop this. Next one. Now this is classified into 3 categories. One is circulating. Then this is in areas with inadequate OPV coverage. So this continues circulating because OPV coverage is less. So those people who are not given OPV, this can be there affecting those cases and may lead to sustained person-to-person spread in the community. Second is immunodeficient associated VDPVs. This is isolated from cases with primary immune deficiencies who exhibit prolonged VDPV infection after OPV exposure. So this is basically due to immune deficiency in those situations, and this may excrete virus up to very long period mentioned as 20 years even. And third one is ambiguous, which is not clear. The clinical isolates from persons with no known immunodeficiency or environmental isolate with unidentified sources. So sources are not clear, they are not immunodeficient. So these type of cases are also detected. So this is 3 categories of this vaccine or VDPVs. Next one. And this slide shows a bar diagram of polio cases due to type 1, 2, and 3. And this is shown that last case occurred in 2010. And after 2011, no wild polio virus case is detected. And next one. This shows the cases detected in various states. Last was in Howrah, that is 13th of January. That was type 1 polio virus. And in Jharkhand, in Pakur, this was in October 22nd. This was type 3 polio virus. And in Uttar Pradesh, Aligarh, this was quite long back in 1999. This was type 2 virus. Next one. This table shows the countries or prevalence or means yellow one gives endemic countries, as I mentioned in the beginning. This is Pakistan and Afghanistan, and Nigeria was another endemic country shown as yellow, but for last case was seen in 21st August 16 in Nigeria. So this is near getting certification of polio eradication. And next one. this, I think you can see this chart very clearly as I can see. So this shows that there are three types of VDPVs. One is circulating, that is giving on the, see the right side of the slide. So in 22, there were 81 cases, 155 in 22, 16 in 21, and 35 cases in 2020. So this 23 is till September 23rd. So still a number of cases are there. This is related to vaccine. All this is due to vaccine. And type 2 is 196 cases in 2023 till September, and 631 in 22, and 683 21, and 1082 in 2020. So type 2 is having a larger number of vaccine-related polio viruses, and type 3 is only one case detected in 2022 after 20, and till September 23rd, there is no case. So basically, problem is with type 2 virus that is in bivalent OPV vaccine. Next one. So why this strategy of OPV withdrawn? Next one. Now, as we have discussed, continued use of OPV is incompatible with polio eradication, because vaccine-related cases will be occurring, will continue occur in the community. And whether or not OPV is sufficient to eliminate while, sorry, there is the Shara ground near my house, so you having that music also. Whether or not OPV is sufficient to eliminate wild polio types 1 and 3. So maybe it has to be withdrawn before completing global polio eradication. Otherwise, these cases will continue occurring. Create immunity vacuum is unwise, so risky. So we have to use IPV. So it's inevitable to introduce IPV because the oral vaccine may continue causing these type of cases. So we have to take up to fill this gap of immunity by IPV. Next one. Why was PP2 prioritized for withdrawn? Because as type 2 had been eradicated 17 years ago. Now continued use of type 2 was unnecessary. And we have seen that of all vaccine-associated paralytic polio cases, 40% are caused by type 2. And of all cases due to circulating viral vaccine related cases, more than 90% are from the type. So type 2 is causing all such problems. And there has been stress rehearsal of OPV withdrawn already done. And there is risk mitigation by IPV. This one. Now IPV is 95 to 100% seroconversion rate against all the three viruses. So it contains all the three types. This can be given to immunosuppressed or to contracts of immunosuppressed, as it is a killed vaccine. Since it is killed vaccine, cannot cause vaccine-associated polio or give rise to circulating vaccine-derived polio virus. It gave us pharyngeal immunity also, and immunity against paralytic polio early in life before coming in contact with the wild polio virus, as because it's a T cell based kind of immunity generating vaccine. Now, what are the recent recommendations about IPV in NIP? Next one. There are 3 doses of IPV, fractional IPV recommended at 6, 14, and 19 weeks. This is by National Immunization, that is a government program. And we recommend more doses, as we have seen in the previous slides. Seroconversion after 3 doses of fractional IPV is in the range of 98 to 99%, so quite good. So this is okay. Next one. Now, there should be no child administered only bivalent OPV in infancy without IPV. So IPV is a must now along with OPV. If hexavalent vaccines are unaffordable, sometimes it happens, standalone IPV can be used, or the infant may be sent to government facility because it's available there. Booster dose of IPV at 4 to 6 years of age is now recommended for children who have received the initial IPV doses as per ACVIP schedule, that is 3+1 of waning immunity noted against polio virus type 1 and 2. In present changed recommendations by government of 3 doses of fractional IPV, an extra dose of IM IPV advised in primary series by ACVIP will not be needed now, but booster doses at 18 months and 5 years will be beneficial to these children. Next one. Now, what is OPV and NOPV and what is SIPV? Next one. This is N is novel kind of OPV, and this is type 2 genetically stable OPV with very less chances of mutations and very little risk of circulating VDPV because of this factor. Now, SIPV is derived from Sabin strain of polio that is given S has less stringent biosafety levels in production and mass and standard productions possible with SIPV use has been started in few countries. So this will be more safer vaccine. Next one. There are different types of these vaccines available. Next one, protein carcass. So live attenuated by Hilbert and so many companies. Next one. So thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Now we will be coming to next topic of pneumococcal vaccines and JE vaccines. It's my pleasure to invite our next speaker, Dr. Jaideep Chaudhary. He is a professor, Department of Pediatrics, Institute of Child Health, Calcutta. He has acted as Vice President East Zone Central IAP 2019, Vice President and Chairperson of IAP Infectious Disease Chapter 2020, and Convener IAP ACVIP 2015-16. He has been author and editor of various textbooks on pediatric infectious diseases. Now I invite Dr. Jaideep to please start his talk.
Thank you, Dr. Vineet. May I start with sharing the slides, please? 1 second. Is the full screen visible?
Not yet.
Now it's visible, sir.
I hope the full screen is visible now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good evening on this Sunday, and thank you for inviting me to this session. It's a pleasure to interact on a vaccine platform as always. So we will discuss first the pneumococcal vaccine. Now, we know that there are at present about 100 known serotypes of streptopneumonia, but we are more concerned about approximately 20 to 30 serotypes of pneumococcus that really cause invasive pneumococcal disease. Now, to counter this, there are two types of vaccine. One is conjugated vaccine, one is unconjugated vaccine. The conjugate vaccine in office practice is used in 3+1 schedule, but in the National Immunization Program is the 2+1 schedule. And the unconjugated one, which can be used only above 2 years, is reserved for the high-risk cases only. As per the ACVIP recommendation, the conjugated vaccine is recommended till 5 years of age in immunocompetent children, but it can be used up to 18 years children in high risk and under special circumstances. The national immunization program schedule is 6 weeks, 14 weeks, and 9 months booster. That's a 2+1 schedule. Now, in the market, there are quite a few types of pneumococcal conjugate vaccine. Initially, the PCV7 was replaced by PCV13, which is conjugated with the CRM197 protein, and it contains 13 serotypes, the main focus being the 3, 6A and 19A. Then there is a PCV10 by GSK company, which is conjugated with DT, TT, and NTH1, the different serotypes. Here it contains 10 serotypes, the main focus being 1, 5, and 7F, but importantly doesn't contain 3, 6A, and 19A. And then there is the new 10-valent PCV by Serum Institute of India, which is again conjugated with CRM197. It contains 6A and 19A, but it doesn't contain 3. The comparative chart I will show soon. Then there is the new PCV14 by Biological E. It contains 3, 19A, but doesn't contain 6A. Additionally, it contains 22F and 33F. Now, there are other PCV which are in the pipeline, like the 20-valent conjugate pneumococcal vaccine. Then there is a 15-valent vaccine by Merck, and the available unconjugated vaccine is 23-valent. Basically, the choice of vaccine is not strictly by the valency. That means more the valency, better the vaccine. It's not true. But most importantly is that every child must receive a pneumococcal conjugate vaccine. So that's important to reach us to the goal of getting the herd immunity and protecting everybody. Now, this is the serotype composition difference. It starts with PCV10, GSK, then Serum Institute, then PCV13 and PCV14 by Biological E. The other two are not yet available. Now, serotype 3 is present in PCV 13 and 14, but it's not in both the PCV 10. Serotype 4 is not covered in PCV 10, whereas serotype 6A is present in Serum Institute PCV 10, that is Pneumocil, and PCV 13 Prevnar, but not in Synflorix and Newbivax. Then comes the 18C, which is not covered by Serum Institute PCV10 or Pneumocil, and 19A, which is present in all except the PCV10 by GSK, Synflorix. So these are the more or less composition, but we have to note that the 14-valent PCV that contains additionally 22F and 33F, which might be the emerging serotype. So this is the serotype comparison of all the available conjugate vaccines, and the two vaccines in the pipeline contains all these serotypes that we have mentioned now, and in addition there are few other serotypes which are also covered. Now, there are different studies available in India to see the serotype prevalence, and as per the serotype prevalence, the comparative coverage of the various conjugate pneumococcal vaccines that are available. Now, we had the Pneumonet study that was Pfizer funded, done in Bangalore mainly. Then it was a PDOP study. Then it was ACIP study, the GSK funded, then IBIS study, Velo, Delhi, and SORP, and many others. Now, if we see the serotype distribution of India collectively as per these studies, the PCV13 and PCV14 available, they covered approximately 80% of the prevailing serotypes. The PCV10 of GSK covers about 8 to 10% less, that is around 70%. And the PCV10 by Serum Institute, the coverage is 2 to 8% less, that's about 72 to 78% approximately. So this is the difference of coverage, but it varies as per the different studies. Now, the WHO position regarding the effectiveness of the different vaccine, one must note, the net impact or the effectiveness of all vaccines are comparable when used in public health. That means for when the concern is protecting all the children in a community, then these vaccines, they have minor difference only, and any of these vaccines may be chosen depending on other factors like the cost, the availability, the serotype coverage of the particular area, the programmatic feasibility, because the question of storage, the volume comes, and availability of multi-dose formulations, because for national program, we need a multi-dose formulation. But definitely a vaccine containing 6A and 19A may have an additional benefit in settings where the disease attributable to serotype 19A or serotype 6A is significant. So that makes the point that those vaccines containing 6A and 19A should be preferred. Talking about the correlate of protection of pneumococcal conjugate vaccine. Now, WHO has laid down a criteria which all the PCV should meet to make it acceptable for general use. One is the IgG. Now, IgG is not a serotype specific, but it is common for all serotypes collectively, which should be more than 0.35 microgram per ml, measured by WHO reference assay ELISA technique. So it is the collective serotype IgG above 0.35 microgram per ml. A better reflection is the OPA, or the opsonophagocytic antigen, the bioassay which measures the capacity of the antibodies to opsonize pneumococci. That means it is that dilution of antibody which neutralizes at least 50% of the pneumococci. And here the lowest serum dilution, which is used for OPA assay, is 1:8. And detection of opsonic antibodies at this dilution has been proposed as the protective against the disease. So OPA is probably a better indicator of protection because it is the functional antibody, and the titer is 1:8. That's the minimum level which is formulated by WHO. So IgG and OPA, these are the measures or the correlates of protection. Now, the endpoint of the vaccine type IPV, the vaccine efficacy, that is the IPD covered by the vaccine serotypes. The efficacy is 80%, but when it comes to all IPD, that is beyond the serotypes present in the vaccine, the efficacy is 58%. When it comes to radiological pneumonia, it is 27%, clinical pneumonia 6 to 9%, and acute otitis media, PCV 10, 34%, PCV 13, 7%. So available PCVs do not have any efficacy studies carried out in India. Mind you, this efficacy study are all the studies done in the other countries. The efficacy approximately is 70 to 80% against the vaccines included in the serotypes. That's the 13 or the 10 that's available. Now, the schedule of the pneumococcal conjugate vaccine, if started before 6 months, that is the recommended 6 weeks, 10 weeks, and 14 weeks. It's a 3+1 schedule, that is 6, 10, 14 weeks, followed by a booster in the second year of life. If the vaccine is started late, that is after 6 months but before 12 months, then it's a 2+1 schedule, 2 primary, 1 booster. If it started beyond 12 months, then it's 1+1 schedule. These are all the catch-up schedule offered. And if it started beyond 2 years, then for PCV 13, it's a single dose. But if it's the GSK PCV10, that's Synflorix, it's 2 doses. The other 2 PCVs, the PCV10 by Serum Institute and 14 by BE, those are not licensed above 2 years. Regarding the herd effect of the pneumococcal conjugate vaccine, that we talk a lot about herd effect, yes, the pneumococcal conjugate vaccine prevent nasopharyngeal carriage, so which is a major source of spread of pneumococci. So herd effect is noted even in unvaccinated ones, especially newborn, sorry. Just 1 second. So herd effect is noted in the unvaccinated one, and especially newborns of non-vaccinating age and elderly also. This has been observed in many countries when the vaccine has been introduced for a long time and the coverage is more than 80%. There it has been seen that there is a general drop in the incidence of pneumococcal infections, even in the non-vaccinated population also. Now, there are few issues that we often encounter. One, a child who has received PCV at 2+1 schedule in the government sector has come at the age of 18 months and the mothers are asking for boosters. Should it be offered? The child has already received 2+1. No, there is no such recommendation at present. Though for private practice, 3+1 is probably immunologically a superior schedule, but the 2+1 schedule, because the third dose is given 6 months after the primary schedule, acts as a booster and there is no need to give another booster. The controversy sometimes erupts that government offers pneumococcal vaccine in 2+1 schedule. Can we use the same schedule in office practice? Now, 3+1 approved schedule should be used in office practice for all practical purposes because it has better effect against mainly 3 serotypes 1, 4, and 5. And it is immunologically superior to 2+1 schedule also. Reduced immunogenicity was noted against serotype 6B and 23F in the window period. Till 9 months, the booster dose was given at 2+. In the window period till 9 months when the booster dose is given in this 2+1 schedule. So for office practice, it is the 3+1 schedule that we have to stick to, and it's for the government, it's the 2+1. Like say the rabies vaccine, the government gives intradermal, but in office practice, it's solely intramuscular. Coming to the unconjugated vaccine, there are some limitations of unconjugated vaccine. It's a T cell independent vaccine, so it does not generate any memory cell. Most importantly, it cannot be used in children below 2 years, where the disease prevalence is more and the morbidity and mortality is more. So not helpful in preventing IPD in this most vulnerable age group. Of course, it does not have herd effect because it does not act on nasopharyngeal carriage, does not protect against acute otitis media and also non-bacteremic pneumonias. The efficacy is moderate and revaccination is required because it's an unconjugated vaccine and not more than 2 doses can be given, as more doses cause hyporesponsiveness. So this vaccine only is for high-risk situations like chronic heart disease, chronic lung disease, diabetes mellitus, CSF leak, cochlear implant, functional anatomic asplenia, chronic renal failure, HIV, etc. And also one has to note that this prematurity and very low birth weight infants should be considered at high-risk individuals, though they do not come under special circumstances. Regarding the schedule of conjugate and unconjugated vaccine in the high-risk cases, at present only PCV13 and PCV23 are used in high-risk cases. We have to use PCV13, prime the immune system, then only we have to give the polysaccharide vaccine. And there must be a minimum gap of 8 weeks between PCV13 given first and then polysaccharide 23. After completing all age-appropriate recommended doses of PCV13 or PCV10, The children should be administered polysaccharide vaccine at an age minimum 2 years or more than that, and at least 8 weeks after the latest dose of conjugate vaccine, followed by one more dose of polysaccharide vaccine after 5 years from the first dose of polysaccharide vaccine. To make it simple, a child has received all the doses of conjugate vaccine 6, 10, 14 weeks and 18 months. The child is high risk. The polysaccharide vaccine has to be given after the child becomes 2 years. And only one more dose of polysaccharide vaccine can be given in the lifetime. That should be 5 years from this dose of polysaccharide vaccine. For the child between 24 to 71 months, if age-appropriate doses are not completed, that is less than 3 doses of polysaccharide conjugate vaccine received in the past, then 2 doses of conjugate at interval of 8 weeks, followed by polysaccharide as mentioned above. If 3 doses were received in the past, then only 1 dose of PCV13 followed by polysaccharide vaccine. And children 6 to 18 years, single dose of PCV13 followed by polysaccharide after 8 weeks and another dose after 5 years. These are the various pneumococcal vaccines that are available. You are all familiar with this. Next, we will move on to a Japanese encephalitis vaccine. Mind you, this is the only vaccine which can prevent against the viral encephalitis. Now, again, Japanese encephalitis vaccines available. One is the live attenuated, manufactured in China. It's a lyophilized vaccine. It is not available in the open market. It's used only in government setup. Then we have 2 inactivated vaccines. One is the varicella derived, that is attenuated SA1414-2 Japanese encephalitis virus strain, which is marketed as GIF by Biological E. It has got 2 different strengths for 2 age group. One is 1 year to 3 years. It is 3 microgram available in 0.5 ml, and above 3 years also in adults, it's a 6 microgram again available in 0.5 ml. So this is the inactivated SA1414-2. Then there is another inactivated varicella culture derived from Kola strain. It is in a liquid form. It is only 1 dose available. It's only 1 dose for all the ages, the same strength for all the ages. And it is Genvac, marketed by Bharat Biotech or JE Shield. A live recombinant vaccine, a chimeric vaccine produced by Verocell, but it's not available in India. Regarding the dose, 2-dose schedule at 9 months and 15 to 18 months in the government setup of the live vaccine given subcutaneously. Mind you, in government setup, it's 9 months. But for the inactivated vaccine, the Verocell derived purified inactivated vaccine, it is 2 doses, 4 weeks apart, given above 1 year. For private practice, it's above 1 year IM, and also same is the Verocell culture derived Kola strain, again 2 doses, 4 weeks apart, above 1 year given IM. So both the inactivated vaccine in the private setup, minimum age at 1 year, 2 doses, minimum 4 weeks apart. There are very few side effects of JE vaccine other than local pain, tenderness, swelling. There may be mild fever, body ache. And though neurological side effects like edema is very rare, was reported after live vaccine, but the causality was not proven. The live vaccine approximate efficacy in Indian experience is about 70%, effectiveness though is 95%. The Verocell inactivated vaccine, the seroprotection was done, it's 90 to 95% in 2 doses, and the other, the Kolar, it was the same 87 to 93%, but it was shown that even single dose, the seroprotection was 87 to 93%. So DCGI approved single dose, but as per ACVIP, the 2-dose schedule of both the inactivated vaccines are recommended. The need of boosters is yet inconclusive because the natural boosting might contribute to the prolonged efficacy in the endemic areas. IP recommendations for JE vaccine to all children in highly endemic areas till 18 years of age. Now, how to know a highly endemic area? if the vaccine is given in that particular district in the national immunization program, then in the private practice also this vaccine should be offered to all children in that area. And travelers who are likely to visit rural areas or the endemic areas during the JE season, who are likely to stay outdoors, and those who stay will exceed more than a month, they are also indicated. But practically speaking, nowadays there's a lot of movement of people all across India, so people frequently travel from non-endemic to endemic, and henceforth so this vaccine may be offered to all. If there are less number of diagnosed or confirmed cases in your area, can JE vaccine be administered in your area? Should be considered when there is a suitable environment for JE transmission. Mind you, the JE transmission, the most conducive environment is just post-monsoon, when the paddy fields are flooded with water. They are full of crops. There are a lot of birds, the pond herons, and in the vicinity there are cattle and pigs. And this JE virus cycle is completed between the birds, pond herons, and cattle and pigs. And when human being, they stay close to this area, they are incidentally bitten by the mosquito and they get the disease, and that's the dead end disease. So proximity to other countries or region known to having JE transmission also. So it should be considered in this circumstance when the environment is there or proximity to a JE endemic area. What's the best or ideal strategy to introduce a new vaccine in an area of high transmission? Well, the most effective strategy is a one-time campaign outside the transmission season in the primary target population defined by local epidemiology. This is typically children below 15 years, followed by incorporation of JE in the vaccination into routine childhood immunization program, because campaign rapidly reduces disease incidence. That we have seen the MR campaign also in a broader age group of susceptible individual, then it's in the routine immunization. Will JE give a herd effect? No, never, because humans are incidental dead-end host and there is no human-to-human transmission, so it will not give herd effect. In an area where mass JE vaccination program was started, a child with encephalitis tested positive for JE antibodies in the serum. How to interpret? Now, to avoid implicating JE as the cause, sterile collection and testing of CSF sample of all persons with acute encephalitic syndrome is recommended, as IgM induced by recent JE vaccination may be detectable in the serum but not in the CSF. So testing of serum only from a recently JE vaccinated patient may wrongly implicate JE as the cause of illness, because the gold standard to confirm JE encephalitis is CSF IgM ELISA against JE. So serum JE is misleading and should not be counted. Will vaccination be the priority intervention in case of an JE outbreak? Well, the preventive measures are more important, like mosquito control, reservoir control, personal protection, etc. Vaccine is used after this measure, but not as immediate preventive measure. Is it an important vaccine? Well, in India, most states come under high transmission geographic settings. Already 368 districts and urban cities are declared endemic, and vaccination has been started in these areas. And mortality and morbidity is very high with JE infection, particularly in children below 15 years. And this is a safe vaccine and cost effective also. So JE vaccination should be promoted as per IP and also national immunization schedules. And these are all the JE vaccines that are available in the market that you are aware. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Jaideep, for a very informative talk on both vaccines. I have two queries. One, Kolar strain, you mentioned single dose, but in another slide you are mentioning 2 doses. Should be single?
No, it is 2 doses. Now, what I mentioned is that as per the effectiveness study conducted by the manufacturing company, they showed 87 to 93% protection with a single dose. That is why DCGI has given a licensure of single dose of that vaccine. But if you read their product monograph also, it is written single dose, but one dose may be given after 1 year if somebody is traveling to an endemic region. Now, JE vaccine you give only in endemic region only. So in effect, they are also recommending 2 doses, and ACVIP, to keep a uniformity, has recommended both the inactivated JE vaccine in 2-dose schedule, and same 2-dose schedule inactivated vaccine is given in the national immunization program also. So for all practical purposes, though there is some talk about a single dose of polar vaccine, but it is 2 doses definitely.
Thank you. And another, your comment on cross protection serotypes in the pneumococcal vaccine.
It's a long discussion. Some of the products claim that 6A can be protection against 6A can be achieved by cross protection by 6B, but actually ACVIP has clearly mentioned direct and WHO also, direct protection is much superior to cross protection. So while selecting a vaccine, we will always try to offer that vaccine which gives direct protection against a particular serotype rather than a cross protection. So the cross protection discussion mainly comes with 6A and 19A, and ACVIP has clearly mentioned better to select a vaccine which contains 6A and 19A, because direct protection is better.
Dr. Jaydeep, I'll have a query.
Yes.
Very good evening, first of all.
Good
It's
evening.
always a pleasure to listen to you.
Thank you.
We have kids going from Punjab to study in areas endemic with Japanese encephalitis. Do you recommend giving them 2 shots of Japanese encephalitis at the age of 14, 15 years, 16 years?
Of course, sir. JE vaccine can be taken at any age. That's what I was mentioning briefly, that nowadays even a lot of traveling is there. People go for a holiday also. And most of India are JE endemic. So there is no harm in giving 2 doses of JE vaccine. Very safe vaccine, and it should be given because people travel a lot. And JE is a dreadful disease.
Right. And second is this interchanging brands. You know, sometimes one clinician did not put a sticker of which brand has been given for JE. This is a problem we are facing in our area. So what should be done ideally?
Ideally,
2 doses again.
Yeah. Ideally, it should not be interchanged. Ideally. But if the sticker is not there, the person can't tell, then whichever is available with you, you can give.
So second dose, or you have to give 2 doses of the same brand?
No. Or single dose. I mean, total 2 doses. You give 1 dose only. You give 1 dose.
Right. Thank you. Dr. Vineet?
Yeah. There is another query for Dr. Vance, sir. If a baby coming to India from abroad at 9 months of age without BCG and OPV vaccines and planning to stay in India for next 6 months, how soon should the baby be vaccinated?
This is a common situation. I think we need to check the polio vaccination in that case. They are giving IPV only. If IPV is not due, any dose is not due, my opinion is that no need of giving OPV vaccine to that child. BCG, anyhow, they are not giving. So BCG, we should give 1 dose to that. Because our situation is endemic for tuberculosis.
Any other query, Dr. Vineet?
Not yet.
So I think
I would like to add one thing which Dr. Jaydeep Chaudhary said, that though we say that the antibody levels of more than 0.35 is required for pneumococcal serotype protection, but the level of antibodies which are required for protection against nasopharyngeal carriage and against bacteremic pneumonia is way ahead, far more than protection against simple bacteremia or non-bacteremic pneumonia. So what Jaydeep sir was correctly saying, that yes, cross protection is seen with many of the serotypes. Like sir has said, that 6A is giving some cross protection to 6T, 19F is giving some cross protection to 19A, and the recent 6B in the new Nubivax 14 is said to be giving cross protection to 6A. So yes, might be that they might be producing some level of antibodies, but that level we don't know whether is sufficient enough for nasopharyngeal carriage and bacteremic pneumonia. So that is the basic major issue. So some cross protection, of course, it is there, but we don't know with guarantee whether that will be protected.
We have Dr. Daljit Singh with us today. So, sir, do you have any special comments on today's sessions and anything you want to add, sir?
No, I think this was a very good introduction to the whole program, and a few important vaccines have been covered. I think we started off very well with the basic concepts, including the physiology of vaccination and the general principles. The next 2 days will cover the rest. I just want to congratulate everyone for doing a good job. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. So let's call it a day, and we'll start at 2:45 tomorrow. So all of you are requested to please join in at 2:45. Thank you very much, Dr. Vineet, and thank you very much, Dr. Anuradha Bansal. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye.